Hello, it is Tony here. Welcome back to another home aquarium video. Today we will be feeding all the inhabitants in the tank, but not just with regular fish flakes. They get a special treat. Today will be Bloodworms Day. That little dwarf frog can sense that it is going to be feeding time soon. It is actively searching for food, trying to hide in the grass. They can sense that it is feeding time, but there's no food in the tank yet. The quarry is ready, this frog is ready, the snails are ready. And the plants are always ready. So instead of using the regular fish flakes, we will be putting in some bloodworms, the Hikari freeze-dried bloodworms. They go bonkers for this stuff. So one thing about this type of fish food is that make sure that you do not overfeed them because they tend to expand in their stomachs. For these guppies, usually 1 or 2 worms is more than enough to fill their stomachs. And here we go, getting the lid off. The fish are all swimming to the surface, and they're waiting for the bloodworms. There we go. So these bloodworms, they're dried, so they need to be soaked in water for a little bit. This particular brand of the bloodworms tend to soak up the water pretty quick. Most of them will float on the surface, a few will sink to the bottom, and the guppies are going after them. Once the smell dissipates throughout the tank, they'll know that the food is around somewhere and they will actively hunt for the food. The guppy's eyesight is actually pretty good. They can see the bloodworms floating on the surface. The cory cats can also sense that there's food in the water. There's one hiding in the back. So that little scoop was not enough. Let's get some more. There we go. And the guppies are going after the ones floating on the surface. The bloodworms are starting to drop to the bottom of the tank. So Omega here can sense the food, but because of the poor eyesight, it's not always easy for her to get the food. It knows there's some around, so they tend to just gulp whatever's in front of him. It's interesting how these frogs hunt for food in that they gulp whatever's in front of it, and then it sorts out the food in its mouth. So sometimes it will get a mouthful of sand and then spit out the sand, leaving just the food. The cory cats, they tend to be much, much faster. Now sometimes I think the frogs, they get a little bit frustrated because they know the food is around, but they can't get to it. This little dwarf frog, it's a female. And there we go. Sometimes she just wants to be hand-fed. Oh, the Cory cats, they're aggressive. They don't harm each other, but they do compete for food. So sometimes I do hand feed them. Sometimes the Cory cats, their movement can be really aggressive, which knocks the plants loose, and I'll have to replant them. There's some more bloodworms for this little guy over here. It looks like it wants some. And now it's hiding in the corner. Oh, it's got a buddy along with it. So once again, they can sense the food, but they don't always know exactly where it is. And this mystery snail just likes to get in the way. These bloodworms, they're a really nice little treat for the frogs. I only give them these treats once a week. So of course, after the dessert, they get their main meal, right? That's how we humans also like to consume our meals in order. Desserts first, then the actual dinner. So let's give them a little bit of the fish flakes. This Cory cat wants more. That was not enough. I don't always hand feed the fish with the fish flakes, but today is a special day. Now, whatever leftover food, the snails and the Cory cats will pick them off. I have about 11 mystery snails in the tank right now, along with a couple hundred pond snails. They're really good at finishing the leftovers. Along with the pond snails, there are quite a few Malaysian trumpet snails and a few cherry shrimp. The guppies seem to have enough. Their stomachs are pretty extended. And that's better with some more light. Now this is interesting. This little frog doesn't seem to be going after the food. This one does though. One thing I learned about dwarf frogs is that they, over time, will beg for food, very similar to turtles. Here's an albino cory cat. They're very energetic. This one's relatively young. It just gobbles up everything in its path. And Omega is still in the same spot looking for more food. Because of the way that the water flows, a lot of food gets trapped in the centerpiece driftwood in the Java moss. So what happens is that the guppies will eventually finish off the food. The cherry shrimp don't seem to like the fish flakes too much, so I give them pellets about 3 times a week instead. And that is feeding day. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.